is happening, everybody? It is Thursday afternoon, which means it is time for us to do a DraftKings Reignmakers breakdown here, looking at everything there is to know about the upcoming NFL slates. We've got just another fantastic Thursday night football game. I mean, how can any of us miss the Steelers taking on the Titans tonight? There's nothing but stellar Thursday night football games every week to look forward to. And while that's, me being a little bit facetious here, the reality is that when you're playing stuff like Reignmakers or DFS or betting on the games, it makes them fun no matter what the matchups are. So we're going to be looking through some of the best ways that we can make money playing Reignmakers for Thursday Night Football, as well as the main slate, and any other questions you guys have that might be related to Reignmakers or fantasy football, DraftKings, anything at all. Throw it into the YouTube chat. This show is for you guys, and we could definitely answer those over the course of the show, whatever it is that might be coming to your mind. And I know that we, usually get questions about stuff with players just looking, who do we want to buy on the secondary market, anything along those lines. It's all fair game for this show. So where I usually like to start here is by looking at the top stacks tool over at stochastic.com and then just seeing which teams are projecting the best for Sunday. So let me go and pull this up here, and then we can look at some of the players on the secondary market and see how they best fit into those different lineups that we could build around the teams that are expected to score the most fantasy points. And also, if you guys haven't done it yet, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, helps keep our content free around here. And if you want more free stuff, check out Reignmakers and the free starters pack you get for NFL. You click on that link below. It's going to take you right to the DraftKings site, and you get it a free pack that is going to include a quarterback and all the other skill position players you need to build out one full lineup. It's free, and you can win actual cash prizes with it. First, David Lynch saying, good afternoon, Greg. Have any thoughts on how to play the Monday Night Football slate now that Eckler isn't a superstar? Feels like Herbert plus Allen plus Eckler plus Wilson and Brees will be duped a ton. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at Monday Night Football. All right, so Monday. I've right into Monday here. I'm going to sort by the player projections. And if anybody else has questions similar to what David's got for us here, just throw them into the YouTube chat. We can answer anything over the course of the show. And as you can see here, there is no more superstar status for Austin Eckler. If you remember last week, we were speculating, David, about who we thought the superstars were going to end up being. And I'm a little surprised Justin Herbert kept his superstar status. I'm trying to remember what my predictions were last week, but I thought that he might potentially lose his QB superstar status. But the running back position is very thin, which did make me a little bit surprised to see that Austin Eckler is no longer going to be a superstar here, even though he hasn't had the best start to the season. Still, it's been a tough year for workhorse running backs. So no more Austin Eckler as a superstar, which means that we have Justin Herbert as the only superstar in this game. Brees Hall, I get why he didn't become a superstar because he got off to the slow start to the year and his fantasy production overall hasn't been the best because of his return from the ACL injury. But with that said, Brees Hall is going to play like a superstar the rest of the year. So the question that David had asked is, how do we play the Monday Night Football slate? Because he believes that Allen, Eckler, Wilson, Brees Hall is going to be duped a ton. Totally agree with you. And I assume you mean Garrett Wilson, not Zach Wilson. And if you look at our projections here, Keenan Allen projected for 19 fantasy points, Eckler projected for 17, Herbert projected for 17, Brees Hall for 15, and then Garrett Wilson also for 15. And then there's not too big of a drop-off, actually. Zach Wilson at 14.57. Now, I think you're going to have struggled to make a case for the likes of like Josh Palmer, Alan Lazard, or Greg Zuerlein if you're making an optimal lineup, because look at the difference in projections here if you're building lineups out for Monday Night Football. Palmer is projected for 5 less fantasy points for Zach Wilson when Palmer is only projected for 9 himself. You're looking at, you need Palmer to score more than 50% of his projection just to reach what we are expecting to project in terms of fantasy points for Zach Wilson. So what are people going to do building lineups? I agree with you. The players that are going to be really popular are going to be Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, and then one of Brees Hall or Garrett Wilson. Here's what I think you do. You play either Brees Hall or Garrett Wilson in the captain spot. I think that is one very reasonable way to get different. Or you go ahead and play Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's cards have a core floor price right now of $3.20. Actually kind of comparable to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's cards are for as cheap as $3.10. So I think that's the way you go to get contrarian. Play either Garrett or Zach Wilson in that captain spot. I do prefer the upside of Garrett Wilson to Zach Wilson. I know Wilson's had a couple of games where he's looked better this year, but the floor was so low. There is a part of me that thinks like we saw the Chiefs game where Wilson had that one drive where it just balled out. If you guys remember, just every pass he's throwing, it was dime after dime after dime. It was blowing up social media. It's like, look at how good Zach Wilson looks. But we were grading him on a curve, were we not? He had one really good drive. The rest of the game, he was good. It's not like he played like some superstar level quarterback. And because we have such low expectations for Zach Wilson in general, by comparison, made him look better than what he actually was. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at here is that I prefer Garrett Wilson as a captain option than Zach Wilson. So that's what I would do. Play Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson in the captain spot. Relative to price, I'd say Garrett Wilson probably looks better and certainly is more contrarian when you consider $3.10 as the core floor price for him compared to $5.99 for Breece Hall. So people are definitely more interested in Hall heading into this Monday Night Football game. You want to be contrarian, play Garrett Wilson in the captain spot, 1.5x spot, very cheap at $3 for his core floor price. I think that's a reasonable way to go. Let me know how you see it. David, do you have any other opinion? Do you agree with that? Is there a different way you like approaching Monday Night Football? I'd be curious to know your thoughts. And now we could also get to, as we already talked about the one primetime game, I think that leads us pretty nicely into the Thursday night game. We might as well talk about the two of them together since, kind of similar strategies and lineup constructions. And it is Thursday. I know a lot of people are here thinking about Thursday Night Football, probably building lineups for both Reignmakers and then also classic contests for Thursday Night Football. So we could look at Thursday Night Football, and then I will also go over to the top stacks tool, and we'll look at the teams for this weekend that project out the best and who it is that we want to prioritize. Do a little preview over here before getting into Thursday Night Football. But the highest top stack odds for the weekend are the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. Cowboys were huge for me last week. So those are the three teams that we'll focus on after looking at Thursday Night Football. But here we go. Thursday Night Football, we have just an absolute barn burner between the Chiefs and the Steelers. And this is all anybody's talking about. Steelers Titans, Thursday Night Football. Before the year started, people had this game circled on their calendar and said, this is something I can absolutely not miss. Will Levis taking the field on one side, Kenny Pickett on the other side. It's just the best game possible. Likely an AFC Championship final preview. I don't see how anybody could feel differently. Just kidding. But either way, we've got this game here, and Kenny Pickett is projecting for a decent amount more fantasy points than anybody else in the game. But look at the difference in his core floor price compared to everybody else. He's projected for 225 as a core floor here. We've got Henry, who also lost his superstar status. He has seen his price go to 410. This says to me that Kenny Pickett is going to be somewhat contrarian in the captain spot relative to Derrick Henry. Because if Henry is projected for, or not projected, but if his core floor price is $4 and Will Levis' core floor price is $7, then you got George Pickens. His core floor price here is $3.30. I don't think people are rushing to go play Kenny Pickett in that captain spot, and he's our highest projected player in the game. We've got Kenny Pickett projected for 15.76 fantasy points. We've got Henry behind him at 14.21, then Deontay Johnson at 13.97. To me, this is a very easy way to make different looking lineups, and it agrees with our projections. Go Kenny Pickett in the MVP, in the captain spot there. So Kenny Pickett is one way to go. And then who do we want to pair him with? Deontay Johnson projected for 13.97 fantasy points, 199 core floor price. Pickens, 1304. What's really cool about this game is our projections don't agree with the market. The market is doing something different than what our projection tells. And I use our projections for everything. I've had a very profitable NFL DFS year, and I use the stochastic NFL projections. So if you're just telling me who would I rather play today, George Pickens or Deontay Johnson, I'm going to say, if there's nothing else being considered, Deontay Johnson, we got him projected for more fantasy points. Now, on top of that, Deontay Johnson is nearly half of the core floor price. So I think that Deontay Johnson, another really good buy, and also correlates really nicely with Kenny Pickett. If you're looking to go here, Kenny Pickett, pair him with Deontay Johnson. You can even go double stack. You could go George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Kenny Pickett. I think it's a pretty good low-cost lineup to build there. And then David Lynch also following up on Monday Night Football saying, could flip the build and play 3 Jets. I was expecting a larger gap in projections between the top Chargers guys and top Jets guys. Yeah, if you wanted to, you could go Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall. and then you're playing on the other side, either Eckler, Allen, or Herbert. If you're only going with a skill, or so if you're only going with one Chargers player, I think it makes more sense for it to be a skill position player than the quarterback, just because if you're going with Justin Herbert, you probably need him to throw touchdowns at some point. And those are probably either going to go to Austin Eckler or Keenan Allen, and the receiving touchdowns are worth more than the passing touchdowns. So with that in mind, if you're going an onslaught jet stack, I'm more apt to pair them with Eckler or Keenan Allen than I am Justin Herbert. Shout out to the Hustle House. See you out there in the YouTube channel. I see the, what is that emoji of? Is that the salute? Salute to you as well, sir. Salute, salute. All right. What else looks good for this game? I mean, the game sucks, so there's not overall all that much that looks good. I will say this, though. Will Levis is super expensive, like relatively. His core floor price is $7.15. If you're going to buy a player for tonight's game, Levis, to me, is the lowest priority relative to his price. It doesn't mean he doesn't have a ceiling. He looked great last week. If he ends up being a stud quarterback, I can't say that would be the most surprising thing in the world. Now, with that said, people are buying him right now as if he already is that guy. He's the most expensive player in this game by about double the cost of any other player. Will Levis has a core floor price of $7.15. Derrick Henry has a core floor price of $4.10. We're already expecting that Will Levis is like twice the fantasy option that Derrick Henry is because he had one good fantasy game last week. I don't buy into it. At least not in terms of the range of outcomes. There's a ceiling for Will Levis, but I think that one of the more sensible things you can do for Showdown today, whether you're playing on Reignmakers, you're playing in DraftKings Classic contest, fade Will Levis. Go other places. Go to Kenny Pickett at quarterback, especially here in he's a quarter of the price of Will Levis. I like going to Kenny Pickett. I like going to the Steelers offense. And if I'm going to be playing anything from the Titans offense, I'd rather go to Derrick Henry than the Titans passing game. If you look at Derrick Henry, he's projected for 14.21 fantasy points, whereas we have Levis projected for 12.76 with a considerably higher price point. I like the Steelers side of the game more. Let's look at the main slate now. Unless you guys have any other questions about Thursday Night Football, Showdown, you could throw those into the YouTube chat. But if not, we'll start talking about the main slate here. And on the main slate, we have by a mile. By an absolute mile. The Philadelphia Eagles project to be the highest scoring team of the Sunday slate. They are followed here by the Dallas Cowboys. Actually, let me check. That game isn't on Sunday night, is it? When is that game? Just making sure. Yeah, it's the 4:25 game, not a Sunday Night Football game. All right, so we have the Eagles with an 18.5% chance to be the highest scoring team. Cowboys 8.7. So there's like a 25% chance that one of the highest scoring teams is going to come from that game. So with that in mind, let's go and look to make some potential game stacks. Going to take this filter off. And now I'm going to sort by just the Eagles and the Cowboys. Dallas, Philadelphia, and see what we could do from this. One thing that did not end up happening that I thought was going to happen, A.J. Brown is not a superstar. A.J. Brown is having an absurd start to the season, and I thought this was going to lead to him potentially getting superstar status. Didn't end up being the case. This makes A.J. Brown a wide receiver who just makes a ton of sense for classic contests. His core floor price is $11.44. That's fairly reasonable. And this is a wide receiver who so far this year has 60 catches for 939 yards and 5 touchdowns. The last handful of games for A.J. Brown, 130, 137, 131, 127, 175, 131 receiving yards. Since week 3 of the season, A.J. Brown has caught 5 touchdown passes, and he has had at least 127 receiving yards in every game. He's also had at least 6 catches in all of those games, a lot of them big plays downfield. He has had a catch of 25 or more yards in all of those games. A.J. Brown should have been a superstar. He isn't. We should be taking advantage of it and playing him as much as we can. So A.J. Brown makes a whole lot of sense here. As far as the quarterbacks, I hate burning a superstar spot on a quarterback. I talk about this a good amount on these shows. I really, really prefer using my superstar spot on a wide receiver or a running back. A.J. Brown should have been a superstar. He isn't. So I like playing him here. And as far as the quarterbacks, even though we have Jalen Hurts projected for 5 more fantasy points than Dak Prescott, I would rather play Prescott if I'm playing one of the quarterbacks from this game, just from a standpoint of we are getting a free superstar spot. So we'll look at other quarterback, or we'll look at other superstars to play, but I don't want to burn it on Jalen Hurts. Something else nice. CeeDee Lamb, no longer a superstar. He lost his superstar status. It's kind of funny, is it not? Because CeeDee Lamb is coming off just a monster game. We saw a really big breakout from the Dallas Cowboys offense. And I'll look up the final numbers here for CeeDee Lamb from that game. And after he kind of sucked all year as a superstar where nobody wanted to play him, now all of a sudden he has a massive game. People are going to want to play him, and he's no longer a superstar. So CeeDee Lamb is coming off a game where he had 14 targets, caught 12 of them for 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's only caught 3 touchdowns the entire year. 2 of them came last week. He only has 633 receiving yards for the year. 158 of them came last week. So 1 week accounted for 25% of all his receiving yards and 67% of his touchdown receptions. So I think this is a good-looking game stack here. We could go to Dak Prescott at quarterback with A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb as pass catchers. I like that a lot. I think it gives us massive upside and a lot of correlation. Tony Pollard, on the other hand, you could throw him into lineups in a game stack as well, but he's not looked great this year. And I do kind of wonder if he just passed his prime a little bit. And I know people have said to me, because I brought this up on my tournament strategy show that I do on Saturdays with Neil Orfield. I brought up with Tony Pollard that I know he had the leg injury last year, and a lot of people are using that as an excuse. He broke his leg last year, had a horrific injury. It's going to take him time to get back. This is what happens with running backs. You don't have time to get back. Once you get into like your mid-late 20s, you suffer one injury, and then when do you get time to totally heal and be better? He had the offseason, but if he came back to start the season, he wasn't 100%. It's not like if you're not 100% in week 1, you're going to be 100% in week 4. If you come into the season at 90%, you're only going down from there. So I don't know if Tony Pollard's ever going to be the same. His yards per carry is drastically different this year. And I think a lot of it can be connected to that leg injury last year, but it happened, and he just might not be the same guy again. Tony Pollard last year averaged 5.2 yards per carry, had 9 touchdowns. The year before, he averaged 5.5 yards per carry. For his career, he averages 4.9 yards per carry. This year, 3.9. I know he's playing a bigger role now that Zeke's gone, but this is not the same guy that he was a year ago. Even in games where Zeke was out last year, Tony Pollard was really efficient. So I don't look at it as just he can't carry a workhorse role. I just think he's 26 years old, coming off a significant injury, might not be the same guy again. If you want to take a shot on him because he's only $3, okay, he correlates with the rest of the lineup we're building here, but I'd rather focus on CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Dak Prescott in the passing game. Let's go and look at, we got a question from David Lynch. Wants to know, is Cooper Kupp my favorite superstar this week? A lot of skill position superstars are not on the main slate. That is correct. A lot of them are either on the primetime game or it's that Sunday early game where we have the London game, which is Bills Chiefs. Right? That's the Sunday game. Sunday morning game. Yeah, Chiefs Dolphins, I meant to say. Chiefs Dolphins Sunday morning, and that is taking up a lot of the superstar spots. So let's go ahead and look at all the superstars now. I will remove the team filters. And then I'm also going to go by the main slate. So we're not looking at like the Tyreek Hill in here. We've got Jamar Chase in here. All right, so main. Sort by projection. And right away, I've already said I'm not keen to play a superstar quarterback. I'd rather go to other spots. So one thing I think we should do as I go through this is, who do I want to play a quarterback if it isn't a superstar? Right? I really like Dak Prescott in some of those game stacks. And if you look at our projections as well, Dak Prescott has the highest QB projection of any non-superstar quarterback. So I still go Dak Prescott. Even if you aren't building a Philly-Dallas game stack, I think that Dak Prescott's the QB you want to go to. Let's go back and look at all the superstars now, just to further iterate my point on why that is not how you spell the word yes. There's a E in there. There's a vowel. All right, so superstars. I don't want it to be Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. I'd rather play superstar elsewhere. Saquon Barkley at running back. Good matchup against the Raiders. Running back's super difficult to fill in 2023. We do not have very many workhorse backs left. Let's look at all the running backs. Let's look at all the running backs for Sunday. Because my initial intuition is that we want Saquon Barkley to be the guy. And I still feel that way after looking at projections. We've got Josh Jacobs. He's projecting really well running back. Barkley is the second highest running back projection of any player on the slate. Let me look at the maybe actually we do want to play a superstar at quarterback this week. All right, let's see. Wide receivers, superstar, or just all of them in general. AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp. I'm going to still say Barkley. Barkley's workload has just been insane this year. I know he hasn't been very efficient. Part of that is because the Giants are absolutely terrible. But Saquon Barkley, if he's going to continue, and this is a Raiders team that's equally terrible and in flux. Like the Raiders just fired their head coach. Barkley's only averaging 3.7 yards per carry this year, but look at the workload we're getting in recent games. Barkley is coming off a game against the Jets where he had 36 carries for 128 yards, also had 3 receptions on 5 targets. He only averaged 3.6 yards per carry, but he finished with 128 rushing yards. What if he has a game where he averages 4.5 yards per carry, which, by the way, is still not great? I mean, we're going to look at games where Barkley's just going to get to like 150 rushing yards based on volume. It's really hard to project him that way because, like, how do you just pencil somebody in for 40 or 40 touches like he got last week? 39 touches for a running back? Insane what we got out of Barkley last week. But I love the matchup against the Raiders. I'm most inclined to go to Barkley as my superstar spot. Look at the weeks before for Barkley. Against Washington, 21 carries for 77 yards. 3 catches in that game as well. Game before that against the Bills. Giants lost that game, nearly pulled off an upset against the Bills. They just gave the ball to Barkley on nearly every play. 24 carries for 93 yards, 4 catches on 5 targets. This is a guy over the last 3 weeks, like we could expect 30-plus touches out of him. I think Barkley's the guy to play at the superstar spot. This Raiders team, it could get really ugly for them to finish out the year. See, David Lynch followed up, said Barkley, Adams, skinny stacks look interesting with Dak, Brown, and Lamb. Yeah, man, I see it the same way. I see it the exact same way. You know, we're going to have to make sure that there's nothing weird that goes on with Devontae Adams, like holding out or trying to get out of Las Vegas after everything that's going on with the turmoil and the fact their quarterback situation sucks. The entire team's terrible. Front office is a mess. Coaching staff is a mess. So as long as there's nothing like Adams saying weird things in the media about how he doesn't want to play for the team or anything like that, yeah, Adams, Barkley, I think that's a good part of a game stack as well. You can't play any of the quarterbacks in this game. Tyrod Taylor's already been ruled out. We'll see if Daniel Jones plays for the Giants. Seems to be trending towards that he is going to be in there. So not going to play the quarterbacks, but Adams with Barkley, I like it. I think it's a good way to go. Other superstars for the slate, on the main slate. DJ Moore becoming a superstar, that was a little bizarre to me. Like, I just don't think he's ever going to be playable as a superstar. In what scenario are we going to be going to DJ Moore? Kind of the same with Adam Thielen as well, right? Thielen has gotten off to a really strong start this year, but when are you going to look at your lineup and say, all right, I'm playing Adam Thielen over Cooper Kupp, or playing Adam Thielen over you know, AJ Brown? You're just not going to do it, especially when that would burn your superstar spot. So DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, they lost a ton of utility. I was really surprised to see them become superstars. If we look at the rest of the superstars that we have on the main slate, Barkley is going to be my favorite guy to go to. Cooper Kupp, you can make a case for at wide receiver. I do wonder if it was a little bit of fool's gold. I was super high on Cooper Kupp coming back from the hamstring injury, and they looked great the first couple of games. He hasn't looked quite as great the last couple of games. Definitely a little bit worrisome. Justin Jefferson keeps his superstar status, but, you know, he is hurt for a little while here, so we're not going to be able to use him. DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, probably never going to end up playing them again. And then at quarterback, if there was a week that you were going to use Jackson or Hurts at the superstar spot, like this would be it for the main slate, but still, it's not my preferred strategy going out and building lineups. And that pretty much does it for this show. I've got some other stuff that I have to tend to this afternoon. If you guys have any final questions, throw them into the YouTube chat. I'll take like another minute here, and then we'll just also really quick, I'll look at the wide receivers just to see who's projecting well that maybe we didn't hit on, but I think we've already hit on everybody at this point. Brown, Lamb, Kupp, Adams, then there's Thielen, who I wouldn't want to play as a superstar. Wouldn't want to play DJ Moore, who's going to be down a little bit. So nobody else who I'm really dying to consider. Don't see any other questions coming in. So, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't claimed that free starters pack for DraftKings Reignmakers, click on the link below. Totally free cards that you could then use to build out a lineup that you win actual cash prizes with. So, guys, once again, thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck tonight.